up this. We'll say find that. We'll say find that. We'll say find that. Boom. Boom. Did we find this one yet? Auto find and activate. Okay. Let's get to the post show rolling. Just hoping it will find my YouTube chat soon. Because right now it hasn't. And also let me go ahead and let everybody know in the Discord. There it is. And let's set that to live. All right. Everyone. Actually, hold on. Paste that. Nope, get rid of all that. We paste that, and then we copy all of this. We do that. Can't wait to hear your thoughts about last night's episode. Let's go, Jaden. Welcome in, dude. Sorry, just notifying Discord real quick that we are live. I think I'm live everywhere. I think I have all the chats set up. So I think we're ready to rock and roll. I think we're ready to rock and roll. Hold on, my post show. Chat's a little hidden. What's up? We really enjoyed episode 12. What's up, Link? Dago, it was so refreshing to have started a new table. I agree. That was nice to have a fresh table in there. EdMac, thanks for liking the live over on TikTok. Appreciate that. I'm trying to find the best way for me to do my chat on TikTok. I think that might be it for now. Yeah, so honestly, the Seekers start strong. I'm going to post a video with like my more formulated thoughts rather than like a live stream where we talk about it. And that's kind of my thumbnail text is Seekers start strong. Because they did. You know, it's not like there was a combat, but there was a lot of interesting things that happened in that episode. There were big lore drops. We got to really dig into who is Einfasen. We got to find out that, like, apparently there's a cathedral there with a bunch of demon aspirants from the Halovars, right? There's a lot of stuff when it comes to this episode, which was refreshing. You know, we are learning a little bit more about a lot of other things, and I think that's exciting. And then, yeah, I agree. It seemed like Einfasen is all in on solving this, but then that, like, the weeping at the end is like maybe they're on different pages, or you know, it could also be, and they kind of talk about it in the cooldown, that Matt's like, you know, they want to help because they want to do the right thing, but he says himself, you know, his main priority is his house. And if your houses have already fallen, defending their honor is not worth losing his house over. So then it's like, is he actually going to stick to his word? Pops the Painter, thanks for sending the heart over on TikTok, right? Like, is he actually going to stick to his word and try to help with that information, right? Knowing that maybe your house is already too far gone. So is it worth the risk, right? I think that's a big question when it comes to that. Personally, but I'd love for your thoughts, guys. I mean, any comments, questions, concerns, your personal opinions on this latest episode, I would love to hear them. If you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. It can help to get more people in here and kind of have YouTube push us out. If you're on TikTok, double tap your screen. And if you're on Twitch, hey, because there's no algorithmic system over there, so. Dag says, yeah, the way they closed the episode was definitely intentionally throwing some red flags in there to make it doubtful if they were on side. Yeah, well, it could also be unrelated. It could be that, like, Lord Einfasen wants to do the right thing, but maybe what's her face was actually not, like, his daughter is not on his side, right? Maybe his daughter has been aligning herself with the Taconis or something like that. That is 100% a possibility. The handmaiden was Hal's informant that he mentioned in episode 11. What are your thoughts on this theory? I'm trying to think. Did he name her? I know exactly what you're talking about, and that is fair. But that wasn't his informant yet. It was a hope, right? He was basically just like, I know a person, she hears things, we could reach out to her. They wouldn't have reached out to her yet, right? Like, timeline wise, she wouldn't already be in the weeds of like sending information over. So I think that they were talking about making her an informant, but I don't think she already was an informant. Link says, I'm really worried about the Seekers for next episode. It feels like they've walked into a trap and someone will pay next episode. I don't know that they walked into a trap. I think that this may turn into a situation they don't want to be in and they may become trapped, but I don't think they walked into a trap. I don't think their arrival was like, haha, we planned for this and now we've captured you and yada yada yada. Like, I don't think that's the case. But I agree that they may end up trapped. I think this very well may be a trap, but I don't think that it was like planned, right? Like, I guess that's what I'm trying to say is I don't think there was a plan for them to be captured, and all that sort of stuff. That and not allowing disguised Octus to leave, saying something like, all due respect, he is not free to leave. Wait, who said that? It was very interesting. I was wondering what Brennan was going to do about it, because he kept bringing up to Elric, like Octus pretending to be Elric. He kept being like, why are you here? Why did you come back? And I knew that he was looking for a way to try to get a role or a misspeak or something out of him, so that way he could like try to add something to this, and make it a little more rocky if they eventually did it. But then he finally asks for the role, right? He's finally like, all right, give me a deception. And nat 20. And so then he's just like, Elric. Like, that was good. I really enjoyed that. I think the people who were watching it today should have just finished, right? I think it's like 3.5 hours long, plus the break. So if it started at 9 a.m., 12 Eastern, it's 5 hours. Yeah, I think people would have finished in the last like hour or so. One of the guardsmen, when they went to speak to Ernessa at the end, they refused to let Octus leave when he was disguised as a man serving Ernessa. Oh, yeah, when he had swapped disguise. Okay. See, Paul says, I'm finding Octus's character development to be pulling from the story. The self-discovery is jarring to the flow. I would agree with that some. I know, basically, I'm not saying that it really bothered me, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Where like everybody else is doing something in terms of like, oh, let's go find this out, or let's go follow these people, or let's go search for our missing stuff. And he's like, I'm gonna go stitch myself up over here. I'm gonna do this, and then be like, now tell me what happens to my body when I drink this. You know, like I know what you're saying. It feels like it's very much like a personal thing and not the stories that everybody else is following. Again, not really bothering me, but also like, nice. I definitely know what you're saying with what you're saying. 100%. My one complaint is that Valus didn't get much to do this episode. Yeah, her one where she was going to do something is then that thing got triggered off of her nat 1 roll, and then she didn't end up going with the second group into the castle of Einfasen. So yeah, she didn't get a ton when it comes to that. But I think in a way, Valus is still kind of finding her place in this, because Julian and Aranessa are looking for answers. Taisha's looking for her daughter. Octus is stuck in the middle because he's Taconis, and Valus is just like, I decided to come with you guys, and the night song is there, so that's it. And so that's why I feel like she doesn't have as much of the driving force in these episodes because other people do. All right, she doesn't have as much. She's like, I want to do this. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, she could have gone with them inside, but she decided not to. And then they had a ladies' coffee date instead. So hear from her more. Yeah, and she's definitely talked more. Like there's no doubt she's not as stout silent as she once was. That switch flipped pretty early, basically episode 4 or episode 3. That she kind of stopped being as brooding, silent, give me what I want. But at the same time, you know, again, she doesn't have as much of a straight up purpose. She started with one. She started with the I'm going to take the night song. It's mine. And then she just kind of gave up on that and is like, all right, we're friends now. So very excited to learn more about Bayla's history, that's for sure. I agree, Yvette. 100%. Especially because she has so much more than everybody else in terms of time. Maybe not as interesting. We don't know. But in terms of time, she has plenty of that being as old as she is. But we don't have that many people in here yet. But I'm going to ask anyway, what does everybody rate this episode? 1 through 10. If you're rating this 1 through 10, where do you fall? You can do halves if you want. So like 7.5, 4.5, you know, if you want to do something like that. But where do you rank it? I'll even allow quarters if you want to go like 0.75 or 0.25. Caught a post live. Yeah, well, I haven't done them in a while, to be fair, David, but I decided to throw one on today. I still plan on making a video with my like thoughts and reactions, but I decided to do a live as well. The last couple times I did these, they did really poorly in comparison to like the pre-shows and stuff. So I started to kind of move away from them, but sometimes I just want to sit and chat with you guys about it. So I do it anyway. My goat is live. What's up, Akantito? I give it a solid 6. Okay. For you, so I don't know how you've rated other episodes. Is that kind of low for your overall? Like, does that bring your average down? What's up, Edwin? Would you say a 6 is on the lower end of what you've ranked episodes so far? The Einphasen are also pretty entertaining as a house, as a people. Low overall. Okay. Was there any, so you said one of the things that kind of bothered you was the Octus stuff, but was there something else that you just didn't find very entertaining? I think a solid 7, maybe 8. I had exactly what I wanted with all the intrigue and stuff. I was hoping for some combat. Once they got into the towns and did all that, I was like, ooh, I'm not so sure. And then once the demons were like, hey, let's go check them out, and I thought, oh, maybe. But then that part didn't happen in this episode, so. Jaden says, honestly, with it being the first Seekers Table episode, I'd give it a good 8.25. Okay. Yvette on TikTok says, solid 6. There wasn't much action as the other table, but excited to see what the Seekers get into. The How Fatherhood ad nauseum to start. Yeah. If you cut out the beginning part of that and just do the part with the Ozzy being there, I like it. The crying baby and the Liam sitting there holding a baby and bouncing an imaginary baby up and down does nothing for me. Truly not for, you know, it's not for me. Some people may love it. It's not for me. The part with the Ozzy got there and was trying to recruit his brother and saying like, we need to do something, man. And then being like, I want my life. My 3 kids are going to depend on me. Like I need to, this is my life now. I was fine with that. I thought that was fine, but yeah, the little start there, which was really just to set the scene, but that was just kind of like, nah. Brennan doing a fake baby cry. I was like, what? All right. Aren't to Hal opening, I thought it was good. Again, I liked it once it got to Hal and Ozzy both. I just didn't care for, which was really a very short segment, but just the like baby crying, bouncing the baby. Yeah. But it's also, again, I wasn't watching it going, I hate this. I was just going, nah. WTF with the baby cry? That's fair. That's fair. So but the thing, Yvette, so when you say there wasn't much action, do you just mean there wasn't combat? Because I would argue there was. I mean, there were some fun moments with getting to like the tavern. There was the stuff with the Lux and then finding out that she was a demon. There was like all right, like the Einfasen stuff and like coming clean about it and finding out the details about what happened. Oh, the people are still alive. Like I feel like that's action in a way. Like that's story progression, that's big moments, that's reveals. It's just not like we're gonna kill somebody, we're fighting people, we're in danger at this very moment, sort of thing. Dagamara says, I'd say a 7. Solid start. It's got me interested into what's next, but there wasn't anything that blew my mind yet. I'm not expecting much combat with this team, but I do want lore drops. We did get a fair amount of that, especially early on, I feel like. We got a real deep dive into Einfasen. Because before we just kind of like they were, you know, perimeter. We didn't get a deep dive into because we don't have a member of their house in our ranks. But we finally got like a deep dive into them a little bit, and that was interesting. We found out a little bit about like Reisegürtel and the whole Einfasen descendants of giants and all this sorts of stuff, which was interesting. I'm sold. Hal is the reluctant hero. Stop pushing that narrative. Yeah. I like the NPCs and house stuff. It just felt they circled around a problem but didn't dive in. I would agree to a degree, but it's also like they brought it to them and said, hey, look, here's the thing. And then they were like, okay, we want to figure this out with you. So. Yvette says, that is true. It was action in a way I agree. We definitely get lore drops. Yeah, we learned a little bit about people, which is always good. We learned a decent amount. We got to see some more character interactions. Whether you wanted to or not, you got to learn more about Octus's bodily functions and things like that. Dax says, I think this was the last Under House we didn't know much about yet. We don't know that much about Cormorant either, to be fair. Like, we know a decent amount about Taconis, we know a decent amount about Royce, and we know a decent amount about Halavars. The other two, I'd argue we know more about Einfasen now than we do Cormorant. Edwin says, I'd say about an 8. Loved the reveals. Also, Brennan's baby was creepy. Yeah, we got some decent reveals, and there were some twists, right? We all went there thinking like, I'm like, up until we found the carts and all that, we were like, yo, Einfasen had a part in this. And then we were like, maybe they aren't in league with the Taconis as much as we thought. Who was trusting it was paranoid? No, I agree, David. No doubt about that. And then I'm very intrigued. One, I don't understand why the demon sister was just immediately like, I think that that's our sister in Wakander in disguise. Like, what made you think that? You know, she didn't say like, oh, they said this or they reacted this way. She just said, oh, they're with these two people and I think that's them. Unless I missed it, unless she gave like a reason why, but I don't remember. She was just kind of like, there was a guy with, oh, because a guy had green in his eyes. What does it have to do with Wick? Like, I don't understand why they were like, oh, that must be them. Yo, what's up, Aki? How do you spell the house name? Someone, what, Einfasen? I believe it's Einfassen. If you've seen Vic's very important people show, that Brendan baby was crazy. Definitely recommend look it up if you haven't seen the clip from that episode. I have not. Cozy Ambient says, she said something was off about Octus's eyes, so I think she assumed it was tyranny. Yeah, I feel like, and there's nothing wrong with this. Like, Brennan wanted this thing to take place and kind of have this interaction with them and this secret sort of, which I'm all for. Their reasoning is very much just like, I got a feeling. which is fine, but it was very much just like, yeah, the green eyes on the skinny, weird looking dude. It's like, must be Wick and Tierney. It's like, oh, all right, like, but I know they're looking for them because they said we chose the right path. So it seems like basically they went out after them. So now we have the answer, right? We were wondering, is Wick and Tierney being hunted? We don't know. Now we know. Yes. Yes. And they chose to go this way instead of the path that Wick and Tierney actually went. So they're searching over here. David says, it made me think all three might be working together. At very least, her sisters think like her, which is interesting. Paul says, Octus's lack of emotions and emptiness. Can he want retribution? Can he have any motivation other than trying to figure out his body and physical needs? Well, I do think he wants more, but I also agree that Alex is leaning heavily into like playing around with his body. But outside of that, I do think he's still doing the other stuff when it's kind of requested of him, or he's asked like, what does your family think? Or what is, those sorts of things. He still participated in the final play, right? Going with Julian into the Einfausen castle and speak with Lord Einfausen and Lady Ygritte and stuff like that. So yeah. Is the pigeon lady? So you and Jason are talking about the same thing. Somebody else brought this up earlier. Hal said, hey, I know a lady that's a handmaiden with the Einfausen. We could reach out to her, right? He didn't say like she's already giving me information. Like she's my source. I use her all the time. So timelines wise, I don't think she would already be like, I need to send this letter to Hal, right? Like, unless it was pre-set up, unless he said like, hey, I have a source. She already tells me what's going on. In which case, yes, I agree with you guys. That's completely possible that it was actually going to Hal and now his source just got her head smashed. But if he didn't, then it's like, no, I don't think that's set up yet, right? And yeah, Dag, there didn't seem to be much connection there, so I do agree when it comes to that. Also, if you guys haven't already, please click the thumbs up button if you're on YouTube. Double tap the screen if you're on TikTok. Let's see if we can get some more folks in here to participate in this delightful conversation. So on that topic about like, is that Hal's source? If it is, they didn't set it up super well unless I missed him saying she already passes me information. This room is unacceptable for discussion line was fire. Yeah, after just being like, poof. Yeah, the Einfausen are intense. Very intense. Fun, though. Clearly, Tysha loves them. The way the Lord killed her before they got any infos. I also agree with that, Jason. Like, when his immediate reaction was that, I was like, what are you doing? So here's the idea. I don't care if you're the house that's like, you traded on me, I'd kill you. Unless you're stupid, you don't do what she did. So I don't even know that they were actually like working with her. Like, I don't know that. I just think it was stupid to stop them from getting information. Like, I think as a DM, Brennan was like, nah, I'm not getting anything, and just did it. Because, yeah. Did I miss much? Probably, especially if you missed towards the end, Geeky. Probably. Dalton Sprocket says, the main thing I remember from episode 11 is that house source is a big gossip. Doesn't seem to be a secretive source of info. Yeah, so that's why I'm leaning towards it not being that. He already said absolutely go from 0 to 100. I totally get that. Going from 0 to 100 while removing your only current source of information or way to find out who she sent it to is stupid. I don't care if it's 0 to 100. It was stupid. Like, oh, she sent something to somebody? Why don't we ask her, what did you send? Who was it to? Nope, smash her head. Like, I know that they go to 0 to 100. I know why they did it. It's still stupid. Like, that's just, like, they basically said, oh, our one source? Get rid of her. So either they're in league with it, or it's just a really, really bad decision. But yeah, and he said that, I think, in the cooldown where he was like, for Darren's pigeon as a commoner. Yeah, so I know that he set up reasons why he would have done that. For me, it doesn't change the fact that it was incredibly dumb, right? Like I said, definitely stupid. Like, there can be reasons for it. I'm not arguing that at all. They go from 0 to 100 fast. They believe, like, oh, you disrespected me. You pay the consequences. You shouldn't have done that. You're a common. Whatever the reasons are, fine. You kill them after you get the information, right? Like that. Yeah. So very, very odd to me. Let's see. Dag says, I did have my doubts if the handmaiden was good or bad, especially that they just killed her without interrogating. They claim to be wanting proof and to be investigating. Yeah, well, that's the other part, is that they were like, well, we need to find out really why this happened. Oh, you might know? Poof. What are you doing? What are you doing? That was what we needed. So, yeah. Joseph says, in the tavern conversation, they were terrible liars when they name dropped Wick, which is a Wick thing to do. Yes. I feel like that's a stretch for why Enmity would just be like, I think that's Wick and Tyranny. But, it is something. It is a thread to pull. But, yeah. She could be house spy. You mentioned knowing a maiden. So we just talked about that quite a bit, Frostfire. Somebody pointed out that all he said was that he knows somebody who's a bit of a gossip, so that doesn't come across as like secret sending you letters. Also, he didn't say like, as far as I know, and I'd have to go back and see episode 11, he never said that was already in place. He was like, hey, I know a lady, maybe we could use that as a source. He didn't say like, oh, she already sends me carrier pigeons, I have all the info we need. So I don't think there's enough time between for Hal to have already sent her a message and then her being like, I'm going to respond back to you with information. So I feel like that's not, I see where people jump to like, oh, maybe that's a source, but I don't think Hal had already set up this connection of like, pass me on secret information. Tell me what your house is doing, and things like that. So I don't find it likely that she was Hal's informant. Just based on what we know currently, I don't think that's likely. But I know why people kind of went there. Yo, what's up, Dane? Dag says, they do seem to be emotional and unpredictable, which actually works in Seeker's favor because Halavar and Takonas probably wouldn't trust them. They would manipulate them, not team up. Yeah, so we talked about this at the very start. Dag, I think you were here for this, but I'll re-mention it for other people. The end of that episode, in the cooldown, they asked the question that I was already thinking, which is, if your house is already on the down, and Lord Einfosn has already said, number one priority above all is my house. Even if he wants to defend your house, if your house is already fallen, what's there to defend? I'm not risking my house for that. So he may like have his heart in the right place. He may truly be like, I want to help, like I want to do the right thing for you guys, but it's not worth losing my house over. It's not worth the Einfosn falling just to help your house that you're the only person left in it. Your honor is not worth my house is a potential way the Einfosn go with this. It's also quite possible that he really does want to help them, and his daughter, Lady Ingrid, is not on his side. She's been a source for the Takonas or something like that. Jason asks, do you think they can explain Octus in disguise, or are Einfosn bad? What do you mean, do you think they can explain Octus in disguise? Like, if his... Did we lose connection? My thing was, OBS was saying it was reconnecting, so sorry if we disconnected. Still on YouTube. Okay, I don't. It's so weird. Like it was like I'm not sending any signal. It's trying to reconnect, but I don't think the Lord was necessarily onto him. I think Brennan was really trying to get a moment where he could ask for a deception. But which is fine, right? That's totally fine. Erratic Genius, thanks for the follow. I think that's on Twitch. Appreciate that. In terms of like Octus being Ehrlich, I think Brennan, because he brought it up like 4 times, just like he's like, why did you come back? Why are you here waiting? So Octus would say something that said, give me a deception. And he ultimately did, and then Octus rolled a nat 20 and he was just like, Ehrlich. So I think Brennan just wanted to be like, hey, you guys tried this thing. I'm gonna try to have at least one chance that it goes south for you guys. Doesn't necessarily mean they would have tried to kill them or something. Notice what I'm saying, Jason. I think he brought it up multiple times to see if he could find either that they would self-rat themselves out or that they would come clean. And then after they weren't coming clean or doing anything, he was, all right, give me a deception then, as another chance to try to bring that to light. Because I think Brennan had an idea for, like, he was like, oh, this is what'll happen. And so he was trying to see if there were ways that it could come out. And ultimately it didn't. Paul says, I think Tyranny's father is tracking all of his children, manipulated them. He complimented Tyranny mentally on a choice she made towards deception. Maybe he's pulling strings. So that's another thing that's confusing is like the daughters, the aspirants, are all, they went down the wrong road looking for her. And yet her father has tabs on them. So why wouldn't he pass that on if he's in league with the Halibars, which they have a partnership, but I guess it doesn't extend that far because he's not having them like track them. So that's a little confusing. Also, hello, Huck0462. Thank you guys for letting me know that everything was running fine. Don says, I feel like they backed themselves into the corner because Julian said, don't trust Taconis and Octus was disguised. Seems hard to explain that without being accused of colluding. Yes, but if people know about Taconis, then they probably know that Octus isn't exactly like the inside source. Right? Like they probably are aware that Octus was the outcast of the Taconis line, right? He wasn't staying with the family. He's been off at school for X number of years. Then he was with Taisha. Like he hasn't seen his family in forever. So I think that if they would have outright said something about it, that maybe they could have got away with it. It being like an illusion probably wouldn't have gone very well. Like if it just popped in front of them, they would have had it roll well and have real good ways of explaining it. Which is possible, but yeah. See, David says, just because 2 groups work together doesn't mean they're going to share everything. We have no idea of Devil's reasons of our... yeah, exactly. I agree, but there's definitely signs pointing to him being aware of what's happening. Dag says, the father would probably want to set the houses against each other, so having one daughter going way and the other daughter's another way is very demon family thing to do. Yes, but also does he want them fighting against each other? Like the Halivars are giving him souls and filament and right? Like, so doesn't he want the Halivars to be happy? Doesn't he want to make sure that they don't get taken down by the runaway Bakander and he'll out the secrets? Because I feel like he wouldn't want these secrets getting out because it would mess up his side of the deal. So I'm curious about that. Like I get the logic of like he probably has his own plans, but yeah, there's definitely some question marks about that. Anybody else who just joined, if you haven't already, please click that thumbs up button to help the stream. Also, we have been asking people what they would rate the first episode of the Seekers Table. So a number 1 through 10. Or you can do quarters if you'd like. So you can go 0.25s, 0.5s, 0.75s. But throw your rating. If you haven't already, throw your rating. Thank you for liking the live on TikTok, Megan. And Megan gives it a 7. Okay. Maybe just a plan B. Completely possible, Dag. Yeah, definitely possible. Yeah, I think the lowest I've seen people rated is a 6. And the highest was, I think, an 8.25. So it's kind of all fallen in that range. Nobody's giving it like a 2 and nobody's giving it like a 9 or a 10, which I think is fair, right? You kind of save the extremes for the extremes, and it wasn't an extreme episode. I would be curious to hear how everybody felt about the opening sequence, because we've already had people have some mixed feelings about that, and like the whole baby and crying baby and all of that stuff. So curious what you guys thought about that. Softball says, Taisha being so open when she was talking to that girl at the bar, I was like, what are you doing being so open? About what in particular? Because the Loys aren't necessarily like tied to that. I mean, sort of way. And I guess we don't know that much about the old path, but apparently the old path holds a lot of weight. Unless you just meant her saying like, oh, I've met Tierney before. I think that's what you're talking about. Saying like, oh, I've met Tierney and I've met Wick and that sort of stuff. Which, yeah, I mean, I could understand that, but she might not have thought there was a reason, right? She thought she was talking to the Lux. Dane gave it an 8.5. Okay. Best episode for me so far was episode 4. That was my 10. Fair enough. She rolled in that one, so that's why. Wait. On which thing? I don't remember what the nat one was for. Don Sprocket says, I'd rate it a 7 because I like how they explored Octus's condition. I'd like to be more invested as the weeks pass because it's a new table. And this is my, I want everybody to see moments like this. To understand that, like, not every part of the show is necessarily for you, but it's for somebody. Because we had somebody else in here who hated, well, I mean, hate's a strong word, I'm not going to speak for them, but they really didn't enjoy exactly that, Don. Like, they thought that part was like, everybody else is doing these things for the story, and he's like, I'm gonna go like look at my innards and like see what water does to me and what food does if I eat it and stuff like that. You found it very interesting. I thought it was like, meh, don't really care for it, but I don't care that it's there. And for others, it was a negative. And there are so many instances of that you can find. In any sort of entertainment medium, is that people enjoy different aspects. So when you're watching it and you're like, this sucks, or I don't want to see that, remember, somebody else likes that. For instance, I'm not a huge fan of all the stuff with the children for Hal and all that so far. Taisha and Hal scenes with their kids, I don't love it. But there are other people who are like, it's fantastic, can't get enough. And you just have to kind of know that that's what's going on, right? And that, and everything's your cup of tea, and that's the way things go. And as long as you're not super rude and attack people for it, then it's all good. Everybody can have their own opinions on these sorts of things. For as confrontational with Julian as she was in the beginning, Taisha is really making a quick turnaround. Well, she already kind of started to try that before. And I also think there has to be some level of giving in because they're in a party together, traveling together. So as players, they have to let off that gas a little bit, and they still have a little bit of confrontational, to them. I also think the other part is that Taisha's understanding of emotions and knows that Julian just lost a lot. You know, he watched his father die and all those sorts of things. So I think there's a little bit of that in play. So I think she rolled a natural 1 on deception. So I think she role played it and was just more open. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I thought it was interesting and laid out his character as scientific and coping. Yeah, I mean, he did already establish like he's very much necromantic, right? And so, you know, kind of being very interested in your body, it makes sense why he's doing it. It's just, you know, when it was talked about earlier with Paul, I could understand where, like, these people are going to check the perimeter and find the wagons. These people are going to see what the demons are doing. And then he's like, I'm going to go in the room and stitch myself up and look at my organs. And it's like, what? Like, everybody else is following these story beats. And you're like, I'm going to go cut myself open and look at my belly. If you think back to Soldier's first episode, they didn't have much action, but they had some good bits to set the stage, which I think first episode should be. They should never be going 0 to 11 an episode. Yeah, I think it's totally fair that they didn't do something crazy off the rip and some combat, or it was a fine. So again, I'm going to post a video where I basically break down my thoughts. It's going to be a more formulated, more concise instead of like a live back and forth with you all. And my thumbnail is basically going to say Seekers start strong. I think it's a strong start. It didn't blow my socks off, but it was a strong start. We learned a decent amount. We set up for what's to come. We found out some big information. So yeah. Cascadia says, an 8. Enjoying seeing the story and world unfold. I like the setting. Love watching the trap spring. Going to be fun next couple episodes. Not a huge fan of the opening. Feels a bit weaker. Fair enough. Fair enough. I liked the part where the Aussie showed up. Was like, yo, things are happening. Like, join me. Like, let's fight back, man. And then Hal was like, that's not my life. This is my life. I got kids that depend on me. I got all this stuff. And so I liked that part. Right, does status affect to deal with? No doubt about that. Dax says in regards to Octus, I did love the undead bird launch, and Brennan was like, let me Google pigeons to see if the relay say, yeah, I like that. I liked his idea with the bird launch, but unless that vulture was going to be wildly faster, it was not going to catch it. And that's where he was like, well, let me look. If they have to rest, then yes. And then it was like, oh, they have to travel 100 miles and they can do 16 an hour. Yeah, they're fine. Like they're gonna make it. Yeah. I didn't find it necessary at all that they needed rolls. I think it was totally fine the way he did it. I can understand wanting it just because like you're playing D&D, let's roll and see. But I also totally support the way Brennan decided to go with it. Because again, she sent that bird off, then the guards got her, then the guards walked back, brought her up, they had that brief interaction. Like, the bird's gone, dude. Like, you're not catching up to the bird. It just, then you had all that dialogue afterwards before you ever made it outside. We're talking that bird's been gone for 15, 20, 30 minutes. You're not catching the bird. Right? Like, it's a done deal. It was a shot in the dark, but it, like, in my mind, I was like, this should never work. Right? Like, this should never work. I guess to get some more folks' opinions on stuff, what was your favorite moment from the episode? One of mine that just popped into my head, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's an episode, moment I enjoyed, was one, Tysha hitting herself as a snake against the window to try to get in. That was enjoyable. Also, when Julian was like, do you have like a red Cabernet? Like, that was fun. And the reaction there at the bartender, that was fun. I enjoyed that. When the reveal was that the Lux was actually a demon and the horns came out, that was a cool moment. Bird was halfway to its goal already? Exactly. Like, there was no chance. The way Brennan described how the handmaid got ended by that hammer, I had to pause and rewatch with the mouth dropped into. Yeah. Which, I don't know if you were here, but you were saying that was really stupid of him to do, but also it was intense. It was very brutal. It was cool, but also like, you're an idiot, Lord Einfasen. Yeah. The German voice is very fun. The Demon Scooby Gang, yeah. They all get together like, let's go find that, you know. Which we didn't actually get into, right? I thought that they were gonna like show up at when the people were in the market, like when the ladies were getting coffee. I thought the demons were gonna show up. But I also think they wanted to keep the episode a little bit shorter. And so they were like, yeah, we'll just end that there. The giant spear columns. It would be awesome if the Taconas find Octus's bird and trace it back to them. Huh. Dane says, I really enjoyed the tension around Lord Einfasen and the moment with Octus and whether or not to reveal themselves. Yeah, I think they made the right call. That will probably be our first combat event, Demons vs. Seekers. I think it would be crazy if the Seekers already fought 3 demons that are the sisters. Like, that means basically either Seekers lose or escape, or 3 of Tyranny's sisters die already. And that would be a big, I don't know, like having the 3 of the aspirant demons, Tyranny's sisters, die at episode, 12 or 13, or 13 or 14 to that would be intense. Hey, bonus reaction with the raid. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. I'm still getting used to your new name. Bonus reaction. Hope you're streaming well, dude. That would probably be first. Oh, the horse tied in the copper. Yeah, the part where she just set the things down was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can talk to horses, I can't tie them up. Like, that was also a really good moment. I did enjoy that. He's reacting to bonuses. Yeah, that's fair. There are too many bonus actions running around. Yeah, I mean, I know you were doing the 2 channels, and then you also, you were trying to get into, Daggerheart. You're doing the Daggerheart thing too. And so you were like, do I want to? I remember the discussions around it. I remember seeing a video, a live stream, where you ended up going with that. They kind of a mini boss. Yeah, draw them at the courtyard with the Einfasen. Yeah, again, if they have a bunch of help and stuff, that could be cool. But I don't know. I just feel like that would be such a big hit very, very early. Nick on TikTok says, we don't even know if they're on the same level as Tyranny. It's very true. And it's not like she's on a super high level, right? She just at level 4. But to me, it came across, maybe just because they're like bad guys, but they seemed tougher than her. They seemed more sure of their place in the world and what they're doing than she did, right? So, I don't know. I felt like they'd be tougher just based on that. Softball says, I like how Vela seems like the silent BA type, but seems to be more softer and protective when it comes to Octus. Yeah, everybody is, though, because Octus is a little baby. And she has, he had the Night Song thing, so she's probably like, oh, he's been blessed by my elven god queen, Oh, Davino's flirting. Yeah, he was a charmer. Julian was a charmer there towards the end. I dig that. That was fun. He used it to his advantage, and then at the end, he was like, oh yeah, let's save that for another time, milady. Fedora tip. Don Sprocket on YouTube says, I wonder if that's why NBD suspects Octus and Valus are Wiccan tyranny in disguise. The fact they're being searched for would discourage fighting when they want info. Yeah. And the thing is, what's the worst case that happens? They walk up and Cruelty uses her detect disguise ability, whatever she has, and just goes, nope, that's not Wiccan tyranny. And then they just go their separate ways, right? Because they're not Wiccan tyranny. So the theory that Enmity had that they might be is false. And so if they just walk up and use that ability, then they're fine, NS Man says, I feel like they just handed a political asset over on a silver platter yesterday. I love this naive group. They're trying their best, I'd love to see the clumsy sister in combat. I kind of forgot about her. Dr. Caliban says, Valus was intrigued by Octus before he died. Well, Buttons, oh yeah, about how did you bring back Pincushion? She was very intrigued by that idea. I kind of forgot about that, Dr. Caliban. She was already interested in him, and now he's also kind of come back, and she's like, wait a second, there's something about you, man. Dag says, I liked when that Einfasen guard grew to 10.5 feet and smacked that driver in the face in the chat relation lore deep. Yeah, so what is it like? Because it was an Einfasen guard. Is he Einfasen blood? You'd think that he'd have a higher rank or something if that was the case, not just the guy who deals with carriages coming into town or into the castle. So yeah, him going big. I'm trying to, there is it Rune Knight, or what is it? What is the name of the Rune class? Because they can do something like that. Like, they can go big. So maybe that's kind of like the mechanical ability of that. It could also just be something related to Einfasen, and they can just go to freaking 10 feet tall. But Nick on TikTok says, sorry, sounded like I'm in weaker. I think Tyranny's afraid or timid with them. Yeah. She definitely was. In the hallway, it seemed like. The demons infiltrate, alarms go off, they dispel magic disguises, Octus gets revealed as well. Yeah, it could be a big moment like that. Could be a big moment like that. It's funny that they have these sorts of protections, these alerts, these alarms on the Einfossen compound, and then we know that there are multiple demons in disguise in the town. Kind of funny. Rune Knights, fighter subclass, but this might relate to something else. Yeah, my mind went to Rune Knight because I know that they can do that. Now Javier Guard are an actual member, but it would make sense if they're giant blooded. Yeah, that's where I was like, okay, that makes more like, yeah. But at the same time, don't Goliaths get something like that? Somebody gets something like that where they can kind of grow in size as like a bonus action or something. My favorite personal characters are Rune Knight. Yeah, Rune Knights can be fun. I think I did one in an online game, like a one-shot or something. I feel like I played a Rune Knight. I don't remember when. I definitely played in a game with one and needed a lot of stuff. Hey, Goliaths have that trait? Yes, what I thought. Nick says, probably mentioned already, but why was Octus more or less forced to attend with the group? What do you mean forced to attend what? Like to go with Sam, thanks for subscribing on YouTube. Do you mean forced to go with Julian into the thing? Because he could disguise self. He was their in. He could disguise himself as somebody that would be known there. That would be safe to enter and get a meeting. Unless you're talking about something else. Durgard get enlarged, reduce. Yeah, there's that too. What did the Horn detect? Is it the Draconis are doing with the statues? Maybe a subtle connective tissue that shows them fossil more than they can let on? Maybe, yeah. Well, Nick, that was when he had been turned to just being like a servant or something like that. And so they might have thought, like, if he's just a random hired servant, like you just hired a hireling, he might be a spy. He might be like, what was her name? Greta, the handmaiden, and he might pass on bad information or information to our enemies. So that's where I think maybe they said, like, he can't leave. Softball says, one part I was confused about is how did Vela set off? Oh, yeah, just for that. I know she rolled bad. What about her made the guy below? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. I am curious about that. I hope you're well, not with NDD, but here to send the support. I appreciate it, Austin. Thanks, man. Was it Julian? So I initially thought it was Julian. I thought it was his curse, right? Just like we saw it triggered the iron, the cold iron above the door. But then I also thought she was the one who rolled and rolled poorly, so I feared it was connected to her. He also was, I thought he was like swinging from the trees or something to get in, whereas she was like following behind the cart. But maybe I misinterpreted it, because then I was like, wait, so it was something over there with her, but I don't know. Did we get a visual description of the Einfossen daughter? I don't remember if we did. They were just that attention to bony shoulders. Thanks for liking the live on TikTok, Nick. Really appreciate that. If anybody else is over there on TikTok, make sure to double tap your screen, like the live. If you're on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button and hit that. Also, if you guys happen to have Amazon Prime, it means you have Twitch Prime, which means if you go over to twitch.tv/nerdcoregg, you can subscribe for free, and it helps me out immensely. Or become a member on YouTube, which also helps me out immensely. Did say Valus triggered. Did he outright say Valus triggered this? Or as Valus's foot hit that side, the alarm went off? Because while what he said with the foot hits the inside of the gate or the threshold and it goes off makes it sound like it was her, it doesn't confirm it was her, right? I'm not saying it wasn't, but I don't think he like explicitly stated like you did this. But it might be. It could be something tied to the elves, or something she has on her, or there's a lot of potential questions. Yeah, if the shadow was the alarm, it would have been triggered regardless of the role. He alluded to it. That's something. He definitely kind of hinted at that idea, but it doesn't mean that's not a misdirection. Yeah, I don't know if he said you don't know why you triggered, or maybe he did. But I know he said things about like, they didn't know why it went off, and it happened as her foot hit the threshold or something. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll find out. We'll get some answers as to why that happened. Because right now it's all speculation. I agree. It could be misdirection. Brennan loves misdirection. Yeah, I've gathered that so far. Aki says the guard was saying demonic stuff triggered the horn, which Cold Iron detects as well. So could very well be Julian Shadow. See, I was kind of going with that, but then again, everything was leaning towards her, and it's like, okay, well, why did she have to roll that dice if it was Julian Shadow? Why wouldn't it have been Julian, right? So that's why this is a little iffy for me. Also, guys, we talk about all this stuff live in my Discord. If you guys didn't know, link down below in the description on YouTube, or link in bio if you're on TikTok or something. We have a Critical Role Campaign 4 live chat where during the episodes, people type, like, they ask questions like, what did they just say? Or did that just happen? Or we just all go, oh my God, when there's a big reveal or something like that. So if you're interested in that, link there. And then there's channels for, Dungeons and Dragons and all that sort of stuff. But there is a Critical Role live chat specific channel. You want to watch the cooldown after. What's consensus on the extra intro? Well, what info in particular? I did watch the cooldown. My lips are so chapped. Good place to leave Baroness with her troops. Yeah. But we still don't know if the Einfasen are on their side, right? Like, they kind of said, like, we will. But that doesn't mean that everybody in their ranks is on that side. It doesn't mean that things won't change. When he went back, also very true, Jason. Also very true. It didn't go off when he re-entered with Octus disguised as Erlich. Very valid. Bayless didn't go back in there, though. Bayless didn't end up back in there. Random side thing, guys, but I just got a sponsorship for a pinball machine company. So next week I'm going to a local like arcade bar place. They're gonna open early, and I'm gonna go in and record footage of me playing a Dungeons and Dragons pinball machine. And then I'm gonna post about it. They're gonna pay me. So yeah. Just random info for you. It's the Tyrant's Eye pinball machine. Have fun. Hey, peace out, Aki. Thanks for popping in. They all went back. Oh, yeah, at the end of the episode when they all went back. Okay, I thought you meant like she was there when they went back with like Octus and Julia. No, I get what you're saying, Jason. You're right. That's pretty cool. Love pinball and barcades. Yeah, so it's over in Norfolk, and going across the tunnel is awful. So I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I want to go over there before 2. So I can try to get back before the traffic. So they're gonna open up early for me to be able to do it. About the extra Einfos stuff the group didn't learn in game, I guess is what I mean. I don't remember what the specific things are, so I don't know that I can say without like. Well, I have all the notes from the episode, but I don't have notes from the cooldown currently recorded. I enjoyed the episode though. And I am going to do a video where I kind of break down my thoughts in a more structured way and all that stuff. I have all my notes. I'll be doing a recap. So for anybody who needs a recap, there will be one of those coming. I'm going to try to get my thoughts video out today, maybe tonight. And then the recap maybe tomorrow. I imagine we will learn next episode if Einfossen are on side or not, but like you said, it might not stay that way, especially since they're quick to anger. Yeah, and because he was like, my number one priority is my house. So even if he wants to help them, if they're, again, they talk about, that's something I remember for the cooldown. If your house has already lost its chance, why am I going to risk mine? Lord Einfossen is going to have that thought. If the Royces have already been defeated, why am I going to risk my house defending yours? Right? I need to protect my house. Like, that's what they're going to do. Is he going to stand on morality, or is he going to stand on protecting his house? That's what we'll need to find out. Doe2226 says, I think Einfossen Guard probably was the most described combat power in a single scene in C4 so far. 8 knights, 2 of whom are noble knights, which probably are equivalent to Saramai. Interesting. Corey Burton, thanks for subscribing to the channel. So you think 2 of them are equivalent to Saramai, so 2 of them are CR8s, and then the rest are like the normal knights. We already knew when the soldiers fight that even the knights who weren't in great armor back at Castle Sloke, even those knights were kind of tough. Yeah, I don't think that's a fight that they just want to jump into, you know? Come down to whether he feels threatened by the Draconis Halivars, if he feels they can coexist, and if he can get some support, right? If he can get to, you know, the Cormorants and maybe figure out whose side they're on and all that sort of jazz, that could also play a role. With the other 2 houses. Yeah, but they could try to extend that olive branch and see if they can get in on it. Clearly they have some power. Yeah, 2 CR8 knights plus 6 sub-vassals, which are probably somewhat stronger. Better equipped than the Knights of Sloke, yeah. They could also just be the same, and even that would be a pretty large challenge. So, yeah. It's not a fight that they want to start. That's for sure. But it was cool to find out that Einfossen wasn't a part of that, right? Because this whole time we've been thinking, okay, Einfossen are part of the bad guys. And they're probably still out for themselves in some ways, like what's happening with the guard in the town and all that with the arcane marshals. But also, you know, maybe there's something different. Power, but compared to the other 2 houses doing Einfossen out in the cold, yeah, I mean, they're no Taconis. Problem is, if they are not on side, they are in a locked up compound surrounded by scary looking knights, potentially giant people. Yeah. Unless they find a way out or get some allies, it could definitely be very bad for the Seekers if the Einfossen decide that they're not friends. If the Einfasen decide that they are not friends, things are going to go quite poorly unless something else happens. Yo, what up, famine? I don't think they're fighting their way out of that castle. Those can't be the only knights. Oh no, there's no way. You're in the like the capital basically of this house. Like you're in their house with all of their people. Yeah, I don't see that at all. Gallagher moment was crazy. What moment? Doe says, I think Otto might keep Aranessa as a hostage ward or releasing the rest. She is the big political price in the Game of Thrones to make her vassal houses fall in line. Oh, there's no doubt that like she definitely is the big wig of that sort of thing. But clearly the Loys have a good amount of stature as well. Even though it's not like a sundered house and all that sort of jazz, but we're to go off of what's happening in the city. Einfasen are doing things to help the Halavars intentionally or not. They could be at a fork in the road, but that seems too simple of a plot. The Einfasen striking is being very honor and truth bound. I think the answer with which way they will swing depends on figuring out who betrayed their trust, who laid the first grievance. Totally fair. Dane, for sure. Personally, I want them outside because they're hilarious. I also would like if they chose the right thing to do. I think Harry McSwar. Oh, yeah. Poor Greta, and it all happened before they got any information because Lord Einfasen decided to be a dummy. Opportunity to join the Taconas and Halavars to embark on damage control. I don't think we know more until we see more from the Schemers stable. Yeah, so I think next week we'll find out basically are the Einfasen trapping them or not. Are they holding them hostage? Are they on the other side? Are they going to need to try to sneak out? Or are the Einfasen going to allow them to go? Are the Einfasen going to, at least for now, not be their enemies? I think we'll do that next week because, did they, I guess we don't have the schedule for next week to find out if they're actually skipping next week, just like they didn't do they didn't do the start of this week. We don't know that, right? We'll know probably Monday when they put out the weekly schedule. I hope there's an episode next week. It would skip. They traditionally skip the last week of every month. But they skipped the first week of this month. So, yeah. The other two were holidays, so like that can be like okay, but then they skipped an extra week. And so this would be the second month in a row where they did 2 episodes if they skipped the last one. So I'm hoping this month that they'll at least do the last one. Yo, what's up, Spiderman? Thanks for liking the live. Thanks for sending the heart. So in the cooldown, it kept being said there is no orange in this city. I gather that means they don't put up with disloyalty, but the no orange, a common reference, just to understand. The color scale. Basically, they're saying, when he said, like, they said green and red or something. And so, right, the things between might be a shade of orange. Like, kind of like saying everything's black and white, there is no gray. Same thing. Just different colors. They're very black and white. They're very 0 or 100. None of the other numbers. How valuable is Aranessa now that her house is pretty much gone? Exactly. That's a great question. To some, it may be like, oh, she's the last chance for that house to like regain power or to continue to be. So if she's alive, that means that she's still a Royce and they still have a connection to Fairy. So should something change with Fairy, she will still have that connection, right? She may still be the way to get into Fairy. She may still be, right? So there's value there if you believe in that. But if you don't, then you're just like, she's one woman and her house is destroyed. Who cares? Well, if you want, for example, to claim the lands of her House of Vassals, having her marrying her might be quite useful. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, like a stoplight sort of thing. It's either a stop or go. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're referring to their temperament, but in terms of worldviews, I think they can sway and be middle grounded. Any more house lore? Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed. Part of the reason I enjoyed this episode was that we got a good look at Einfasen. We kind of saw their inner workings and the choices they make, and all that sort of stuff. Pewalk says taking a month off for holidays was bad enough. With all tables, no reason to skip a week anymore. I mean, I agree with you. It just doesn't mean that we're gonna do that, you know. Weber says Critical Role schedule says episode 13 on January 29th. Oh, does it? What schedule? Critical Role schedule. Because I thought they did those on the weekly basis. Is there a longer one? Oh, there is. I didn't know that they had this longer schedule on here. Yeah. Wait. No, what am I looking at? No. There's nothing there. Crit Wiki. Oh, the Crit Wiki. Is Crit Wiki like a trusted source for that? Dawn said she's also the only undeniable source to say what happened to the House of Royce. Dueling can be disregarded with enough slander. Yeah, I mean, she definitely is more able. Oh, they have a countdown. So they have a countdown timer there, but I don't know. Do they normally not take it down at the end of every month? I'll see it on their website. I don't see. So I looked at schedule, and on their website, I just saw stuff, but it was like the podcast airing for episode 12. I didn't see anything about episode 13. Let me try it again. Critical Role schedule. It's way to get a birthday episode. Oh, it's your birthday the 29th? I think my brother's birthday is the 29th too. Pretty sure. You're right. Yeah, that's so I saw the same thing. That's where when I was like, oh yeah, it is. And then I read it, was like, oh wait, no. So yeah. Part 1 of the podcast is there, but not necessarily an episode. But I don't remember if. All right, so let's scroll up. See, on the 19th, it has Critical Role Campaign 4, episode 11, YouTube. What? Oh, that was Monday. Hold on. So I need to look for 22nd. Yeah, see, so on the 22nd, if I go back, it has the Critical Role Campaign 4, episode 11, part 1 podcast. But then also on the 22nd, it says Critical Role Campaign 4, episode 12. So yeah, I hope the wiki's right. I hope there's an episode. Wait, it's there. It is there. So at the top, you can click because it stops there and we think, oh, the 29th of January, it just shows that. If you go to the top where it says today and you click the arrow to the right, it takes you into the week of the 29th, 2nd of February, 2nd, you know that, and it has Critical Role Campaign 4, episode 13. Thursday, January 29th. So I do think we may actually get an episode next week unless they mess that up. I think we get an episode next week. Let's go. Sammy says, hey, nice to see the lives again. Do you think that Tyranny's sisters think Octus may be Tyranny because, like them, Octus is possessing a body? Maybe the process is something similar. So I talked about this earlier a little bit, Samuel, that I was like, it feels like she had almost nothing to base it on. She was just like, I think it's them. Octus had a green shimmer in his eyes, so must be Tyranny and Wick. But maybe that isn't. Maybe the green shimmer is enough. But I don't remember them describing Tyranny as having like a shimmer in her eyes. But maybe they did say that. Yeah. What's up, Motaku? They were getting one. It's hope-inducing. Yeah, Dag, I do think so based on that. Why was it Travis on the Tuesday thing? So, Bull, somebody said that he was working on the Prime stuff yesterday. In the pre-show yesterday, somebody said that he was, like, dealing with the Prime Video things, and that's why he wasn't there. I don't know where they got that info, but that's what was said. My next surgery is 29th. Not sure if I'm able to watch it on the phone in hospital. Oh, dang, man. Well, I hope your neck surgery goes well. Octus had the shimmer. Yeah, but that was from like the light, and this was like a green. But maybe that's it. Maybe that's the logic behind it. Filament tattoos. Yeah, again, that feels like a very loose connection, but I mean it's possible. Yeah, there's no doubt that it's possible. Once again, guys, if you just came in, you haven't already clicked that thumbs up button below the YouTube thing, click that if you would, please. Help that out. View month. Gotcha, Eugene. Yeah, we found it. I clicked on the today thing and then clicked to the right and ended up finding it. I didn't see where you could select month, but I did end up finding that. But I appreciate that. You're on top of the Critical Role stuff. You had the comment about like their terms of service or something yesterday, and then the schedule with this. Good recommendation for movie, Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu. I haven't watched it yet, but people were talking about the new Ben Affleck and Matt Damon thing. Rip, I think it's called. I think after this live, I'm going to go record my like consolidated my thoughts from my notes review. I'm going to do a review of the episode. So keep a lookout for that. And if you guys haven't already clicked the subscription button, click that so you get more of me in your feed. I mean, not everyone said the demons need to be smart. That's very true, Famine. Very true. Very true. But it does seem like we're getting an episode next week, which I'm excited about. Does anyone else think the carriages were bait to lure out anyone who Hastakonis missed out on during the slaughter? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be happening, but I didn't think so. So I am not the person that would say yes to your question. We need more nerdcore. Hey, I'm trying. I'm trying to put out all the stuff. I need more videos. I need more content. So trust me, I feel you. Something was missed. I mean, I thought it made sense, and I thought the way that Brendan set up Aranessa being like, let's play a game, let me ask you this stuff, was Brendan's way of trying to explain to them why the carriages were there. And I don't think he would do that if he was intentionally lying about it, or like it was something else. That would feel very much like he led them down this path with fake information pretty firmly. It made sense where they were like, hey, hold my people until I figure out what's going on. So they held the people. I think it kind of checks out. Clues of it being trapped is that House 9000 sent a message to House Davina before the slaughter. So when the slaughter happens in the midst of that, House Takonis missed anyone. But at the same time, they were the one, like, there was a fake letter. They had evidence of the fake letter. and they didn't touch anything on the carriages. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I know what you're trying, like, kind of going for there, but I personally don't think so. I so hope we will have some sort of misunderstanding or Easter egg with the dead vulture arriving in Dalmakiar and meeting the schemers. Just a dead vulture shows up in Dalmakiar. That is true. They did never get they never saw the prisoners. They were just told the prisoners were there. Then they were told that they were going to free them. So I imagine if they don't see any soon, that there will be a problem. Someone says, I feel like Aranessa had more to say ask to Valus when they were drinking coffee, but just didn't get it to happen. Seemed Brendan was about to say something, but stopped. Yeah, but, you know, maybe, but he was also trying to play like the, well, this is awkward. We're sitting around having coffee and don't really know what to say sort of things. David says, yeah, that's fair, but before that made it seem like a lot more than holding folks. It was just they aren't bad guys twist. True. I mean, it could be. It's just kind of like, oh, wait, this changed things. Brennan had a chance to learn bird facts. So 10 out of 10. Yep. Yeah, he went ahead and Googled it. The good thing about Octus going in the end is he can just time himself into a 9,000 guard and look for the caravan soldiers if things go wrong. That is a potential outcome. So all taking place simultaneously with the goings on the soldiers table, right? Yes and no. They're not at the same time right now. This is like what? 4 days after now? It was 3 days when we started the session. They slept for a night and then they were going to sleep again, right? When this episode ended. Like it was nighttime in Einfasen Castle. So maybe they hadn't slept yet. So it was maybe day 4. So they're still not at the number of days the soldiers had at this point. Same way that the schemers were only on, like, they were 48 hours after the death of, like, we're seeing, like, their last sort of scene in episode 11 or whatever was 48 hours after the death of Thiazi, whereas the soldiers were a week, 2 weeks, you know, out from that moment. At this time, the soldiers were in the forest with the fairies, I think. Let's see, they would have gone up. They ended up, did they rest once before they made it to Obed Morn's place? Because then they rested there. Then they went down. They ended up with the fairies. Then they did the tree, slept in the trees after the Wraith tree. And they left a day earlier than everybody else, at least. So, yeah. This is the day they storm Castle Slug. Okay. Yeah, so I was going to say, I don't think there were that many rests up until, like, Castle Sloke, and then there was more travel time where, like, they ended up resting and all that sort of stuff. So if they're at the time where they were storming Castle Sloke, then they still have the post-Castle Sloke. They stayed in town that night. They head out the next day. They run into the Black Rabbits and all that jazz. They make it to Tiberius Lee. They deal with all that stuff. We need Lord of the Rings style travel map. Yeah. The first rest was with Olbid. Yeah, there in some of these it's interesting how far they go. Because sometimes in my mind when they kind of do a travel montage where, like, he just kind of skips through, I'm like, did they rest in that time or no? I mean, he didn't explicitly state it, but it feels like, but then it's like, no, actually this was just the day that they traveled. So it is slightly confusing sometimes to know where everybody's at with time. But if that person, like Doe says, there's a, I think it was Doe, right? Yeah, the wiki has a timeline, then that's probably a good source to use. Assuming those people got the right info and whatnot. Boop, doop, Want you to have a clear description where all the tables are in relation to each other. Yeah, the problem is like if I make a video out of that, right? Like a normal video, not necessarily like a short, but a normal video, it's old news in a week, right? That's not something. I mean, I guess people could go back to it. I'm trying to like find a reference point, and it's also it could be very quick. Just like this is where this table is right now. This is where this table is right now. This is the timeline for this. I don't know. But again, if there's that timeline there on the wiki, I could just reference that and use that to explain, and maybe that'll be helpful to people, and I could try to do that. Indiana Jones style with the dashes. I think we're gonna call it there though, folks. We're approaching an hour and a half. Posting the link to chat. Oh dang. Well, I do have a Discord if you want to share it in there. It's linked in the description. Or else I can try to find it on my own. But I'm sure some other people would be interested. But I think we're gonna call it there, guys. Good conversation, good chatting. Appreciate you guys. If you haven't already clicked the subscription button, consider doing so. If you want to join the Discord, go ahead and do that. It's linked in the description. Yeah, I will see you guys when I see you guys. Appreciate you hanging out. We'll do a pre-show again next week, as long as there's an episode. So hopefully you guys will be there. We'll talk about everything that we're expecting to happen and the things that did happen next week. We'll start that around 7:45 or so Eastern on Thursday. So hope to see you there. Enjoy the rest of your evening, guys. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next time.